Hi, it's me, Vicki Marie, and welcome to my channel. If you're a returning subscriber or viewer, hi again. If it's the first time you've viewed my channel, maybe you consider subscribing. It's absolutely free. A couple of things I want to talk about before I get into this video today. I've really quite looked forward to doing this video because I feel like it's the last time that I have to think about Nicola's partner. I have decided I'm not going to mention his name, just as he seems reluctant to mention Nicky's name. The more I've done these videos and the more I've had to watch the interviews and listen, try and analyse what he's saying, trying to think about what he's saying, trying to get my impressions, the sadder and sadder I've become and the more difficult it's become. As an empath, it's like been quite distressing for me, because I feel like Nicola probably went through quite a lot of misery. But anyway, I'm not trying to tell you what to think. I appreciate all the comments you've made. Some people have tried to, have made comments that they perhaps more in support of Nicola's partner. I really appreciate that. I want to think differently in a way. I really want to, because it's quite distressing to think there's a possibility that Nicola's children might lose their father as well as their mother. Anyway, we'll get into that later. Another couple of things I just wanted to say about the previous video that I made, which was looking at Nicola's partner's interview with Dan Walker. There's a couple of things that I forgot to say. One thing is that wasn't it ironic that I think the following day Dan was knocked off his bike and practically died. I mean, in a terrible accident. It just, you think, is that a coincidence? I mean, it probably is. I don't know about that. Just wanted to point it out in case any of you didn't know that he actually had quite a serious accident the next day. The other thing I wanted to say of how much that particular interview reminds me of the Prince Andrew interview. It's like, the car crash interview, when you make an interview because you think it's a good idea and because you're so superior and you're so clever and you're so much more intelligent than everybody else, you think that this will make a difference, this interview will prove, you poor thing, how everybody's slighting against you. And Prince Andrew, of course, backfired on him, and I think it backfired perhaps on Nicola's partner also. I still don't really understand why the interview was even done in the first place, to be honest. But there you go. I'm sure he had his reasons. Or Emma told him to. Okay, so, yeah, let's go. What we're going to talk about today, or what I want to just look at today, which will, as I say, will be the last time that I will make a video about this particular case, unless there's any developments. There are other things to look at. There's the police, the way the police have dealt with it. There's the CCTV that was released to a true crime channel, but I'm not clever enough to analyse CCTV. Technically I have no idea, so I'm not even going to look at that, but it's all freely available on the internet if you want to have a look at it and make your decisions. The other thing about the police, I've decided I'm not going to do that, because I think there's so much going on with the police that we don't know. I think this investigation, it's like an iceberg, isn't it? We can just see the very tip of it, and now it really is the very tip of it, because everything's been silenced. It's like this media, complete blackout, and nobody should talk about it. Certainly no mainstream media is reporting on it at all. So all this that's underneath the surface, the rest of the iceberg, we don't know about. So I've decided I'm not going to comment on that until perhaps I know a little bit more. The only thing I will say is I feel that the police were manipulated in the beginning, and by the time they realised they'd been manipulated, there was a lot of things that were, you know, could not be retrieved, like, you know, crime scene type things, and that's what I believe. But I'm sure there's a lot going on behind the scenes. I'm absolutely 100% positive there's a lot going on behind the scenes, bubbling under the surface. I don't think it'll be that long before we find out. We think we've got to wait till June for the results of the inquest, but maybe it'll be before that. It might be today, you know, you just don't know. I think it's one of those things. Okay, what else did I want to say before I started? Yeah, going back to sort of my day job, if you like, just want to mention again about my other channel, which is about learning Spanish. If you're interested in learning Spanish, please have a look at my other channel. And I have books available to learn Spanish available on Amazon from level 1 to level 5. So it doesn't matter if you're a beginner, intermediate, advanced. There's a level that will suit you. If you're not sure which level would suit you, get in touch with me and I will guide you in the right direction. And the other thing I want to mention, thank you. A few people have bought this book online. Thank you for that. This is my book about my life. It's not about my whole life. It's not finished yet, but about the reasons really why I came to Spain, how I became a Spanish teacher. You know, some personal things in there, how I survived stalking, which is the reason that I have this interest in true crime now. Oh, that was the other thing. So this is Confessions of a Spanish Teacher by Vicki with an I, Riley. It's available on Amazon. Yeah, I was thinking about where this channel was going, because really this channel, I've had my Spanish channel for a couple of years now. This channel I set up a while ago just because I wanted to do things that weren't to do in Spanish, talk about things I was interested in, more for just a bit more for my enjoyment really, as much as anything, and hope that other people might be interested. And it sort of it was developing towards a true crime type channel, but then I ran out of time. You know, and it was hard enough. I was trying to get my other channel up and running. My other channel is now monetized, and you know, I have the watch hours, I have the subscribers. Well, having said that, I'm nearly on 2,000 subscribers. I'm about 10-14 subscribers off 2,000. If you don't mind going over there and subscribing, it's absolutely free. That would really be nice, because that's a milestone. I was thinking about this and I thought, this is where you use a milestone. It won't make any difference to my channel when I get to 2,000 subscribers in one way, because I'm already monetized. But it's a milestone. This is when we use milestone to get to 1,000 subscribers, to get to 2,000 subscribers, even 1,100. You know, each 100 is a milestone. These are milestones. They're positive, not negative, as I think Emma used it in her interview. So I'm still not sure about that milestone word, though other people have tried to say to me, oh no, it is positive. I accept everything that people say, but to me, a milestone is a positive thing. So I'd like to get to the milestone of 2,000 subscribers on my Spanish channel, and if you can help with that, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, so all that out of the way, let's think about this police statement. So very sadly, a body had been found, hadn't it, on the Sunday after Emma's final push, and a body was found by Jason, the medium, who was walking by the river, looking to see if there was anything he could see, and he actually did see the body, which apparently he did not see in the reeds. First of all, the body was floating down the river and it got caught in the reeds, and it was in the reeds by the time the police arrived, but it wasn't there when he saw it. So I think that's important to mention. The body was in the river where Peter Folding had said nobody was, and the police hadn't been able to find, nobody had been able to find. And of course, Nicola's partner in his interview with Dan Walker had said, it's definitely not the river. he wanted all the outbuildings searched and the this, that and the other. There was, oh, you know, he was telling us what he wanted to happen now. It's definitely not the river. And then lo and behold, we've got Emma's final push on the Friday. Then we've got the body being discovered on the Sunday. So, coincidence? Maybe. You know, I think I might have said before, I remember watching a true crime channel and the policeman saying policemen don't believe in coincidences. So, you know, and certainly perhaps one coincidence, but as I've said all along, it's not the one thing that Nicola's partner says, the one thing that Emma says, the this or the that. It's everything all put together. Now, okay, so unfortunately, the body was found. That it wasn't. Nicola wasn't formally identified until the next day, when the police came out and made a statement. Now, I just wanted to talk about a guy that I feel a little bit sorry for as well, which is Rasheed, who is the reporter for Sky News, who'd been in contact with Nicola's partner for the past 3 weeks. Don't know whether it was him. He was left. It was him who was left the voice note. I don't know, but he'd been reporting on the case. Sky News had done the, you know, some people complained about the walk round that they did, you know, but I actually found that really useful to put a setting to what supposedly had happened that morning when Nicola had dropped the children off and supposedly walked the dogs, you know, this normal walk that she did. And it was interesting to see the scene, because you can't really imagine it. And I just remember thinking, how could something happen? There's such an open space without anybody seeing it. You know, I still, you know, whether there was foul play or not involved in the death of Nicola, I don't know how it would have been done. I think if there was foul play involved, she wasn't at the river that morning. She probably was dead from the time her Fitbit stopped syncing. And then the rest of it was some sort of contrived plan. I don't know how it was done. You know, maybe it wasn't. But I do believe that one way or another, Nicola's death was brought on by her partner. Even if it wasn't by foul play, it was by, she was just so desperate she couldn't cope anymore. So, but of course she was the rock of the family. You know, this is this very conflicting language, isn't it, that we get? One minute she's the rock of the family, she's the pillar of strength. Then she's got the alcohol problems and the mental health problems, and you know, she's practically having a nervous breakdown. What is the truth? What is the truth? That's what I'd like to know. Anyway, so yes, when the police... Oh, sorry, so going back to poor old Ismam Rasheed. So he'd been in contact with Paul during that time, and on the day that Nicola's body was found, I think I might have mentioned his name then, which I'm a bit annoyed about. Anyway, when the day Nicola's body was found, he must have sent a text, I presume, to the family or to the partner, which... Do you know what? Of course he would. He's hearing that. So, you know, this person has courted media coverage. He's done interviews. He's sent voice notes. He's like, you know, set up a GoFundMe page, etc. All this he wanted. And so I'm sure he'd been in touch with Ismam, and then Ismam has just obviously sent... I mean, he's a journalist at the end of the day. If you don't want to speak to journalists, you just don't speak to them. You know, nobody makes you. So he'd sent a message, probably just say, oh, so sorry, you know, how are you feeling? Get anything? You know, I don't know what he said. And a reply was sent, because it was broadcast on all the TV channels. It came from Sky News, but BBC broadcast, everybody broadcast it. And he said, no words right now, just agony. No words right now, just agony. We are all together. We have to be strong. Okay, fair enough. Now, he probably didn't want to talk then. But if he didn't want to talk, don't talk then. Don't reply. Don't do anything. Anyway, he did, and that was the reply that he meant. Now, bearing in mind that when the police had first found the body, they said, we ask that you respect the family's privacy at this time. But there was no statement given from the family or Nicola's partner to say, do not contact us then. No, nothing had been come out by then. So, you know, to me, at the time, what Sky News did, the Sky News reporter did, he probably contacted. I think that's quite normal. I don't know. I don't think he was being intrusive. He's probably built up a relationship over the 3 weeks. And what's he going to do? Just not say anything? I mean, anyway, he did, and that was the reply that he got back from Nicola's partner. So far, that's where we are. We were all waiting for the formal identification because, of course, until the following day, we didn't know for certain. Obviously, everybody presumed that this was probably Nicola, but nobody knew for certain, not even the police, because the coroner had to, or the medical examiner, or whoever makes these decisions, had to make the final decision whether to release the fact that it was officially Nicola. So, bearing in mind, the next day a press conference was called for the police, and there were 2 policemen there, police people, a lady and a man. And I felt a little bit sorry for Pauline Stables, because she was the one that was chosen to make the family's statement. You know, I understand that family wouldn't necessarily want to make that statement personally, so they released the statement, and Pauline, who is a detective chief superintendent, I think, and while the other policeman is sort of actually confirming that unfortunately this was Nicola, she looked quite scared, I thought, because she's probably thinking, I've got to read out this statement, if I say it wrong, you know, she knew that everybody would be watching. I mean, imagine how many people would be. You know that there's millions of people, not just in Britain, all over the world, watching you reading out this statement from the family. It must have been quite, you know, good for you and well done, because that must have been quite scary to do, and I think you did it very well. So I think what we'll do, first of all, I'm going to play it for you, and we'll have a little listen to the statement from start to finish. The press conference from start to finish. It's quite short, so it won't take too long, and then we'll look at it individually.
Sadly, we are now able to confirm that yesterday we recovered Nicola Bulley from the River Wyre. Nicola's family have been informed and are of course devastated. Yeah. Our thoughts are with them at this time, as well as with all her loved ones and the wider community. We recognise the huge impact that Nicola's disappearance has had on her family and friends, but also on the people of St Michael's. We would like to thank all of those who have helped during what has been a hugely complex and highly emotional investigation. Today's development is not the outcome any of us would have wanted, but we hope that at least it can begin to provide some answers for Nicola's loved ones. They remain foremost in our thoughts. The case is now being handled by His Majesty's Coroner. The family have asked that we read a statement on their behalf. I'll now hand over to Detective Chief Superintendent Pauline Stables to do that.
Nicola's family have asked that we release the following statement on their behalf as follows. Our family liaison officers have had to confirm our worst fears today. We will never be able to comprehend what Nikki had gone through in her last moments, and that will never leave us. We will never forget Nikki. How could we? She was the centre of our world. She was the one who made our lives so special, and nothing will cast a shadow over that. Our girls will get the support they need from the people who love them the most. And it saddens us to think that one day we will have to explain to them that the press and members of the public accuse their dad of wrongdoing, misquoted and vilified friends and family. This is absolutely appalling. They have to be held accountable. This cannot happen to another family. We tried last night to take in what we have been told in the day, only to have Sky News and ITV making contact with us directly when we expressly asked for privacy. They again have taken it upon themselves to run stories about us to sell papers and increase their own profits. It is shameful they have acted in this way. Leave us alone now. Do the press and other media channels and so-called professionals not know when to stop? These are our lives and our children's lives. To those who genuinely helped and supported us privately, we thank you. The community support in St Michael's, friends, neighbours and strangers has been nothing short of comforting and heartwarming. Friends, you know who you are, thank you. Our hearts truly break for others who have missing loved ones. Keep that hope alive. Finally, Nikki, you are no longer a missing person. You have been found. We can let you rest now. We love you, always have and always will. We will take it from here.
Do you know, I sat and watched that. Well, I think a lot of us, we were just waiting for it, weren't we? I was waiting for it. As soon as it was said there was going to be a press release, I was waiting. And I have to say, I was absolutely astounded by that statement. Because, well, for various reasons. I mean, lots of reasons. So first of all, you know, I can perfectly well understand that the family themselves would not want to make the statement, to have the police read that statement out for them, I think is perfectly normal. There was a couple of things, like, you know, that I thought, that's a bit strange thing to say, like, we will never forget Nikki. Well, of course you won't forget Nikki. You know, nobody would think that you were going to forget Nikki, but okay, fair enough. That still, well, it didn't seem sort of that strange. But, and he starts off, oh, that's right, we will never forget her, how could we? She was the centre of our world. Even though she was a menopausal alcoholic, of course. Oh, the other thing I'd just like to say there, apparently the police released that information about Nicola because someone was about to sell their story to a newspaper, weren't they, about Nicola's problems. I'd like to know who that was. I wonder who that was. Who was going to sell their story to a newspaper about, or to some media about Nicola's mental health problems, menopause? Who was that? Who would have known about it? Who would have known about it and was about to sell their story? Very intriguing, you know. Who would do that? You know, would you do that for your friend? Especially your friend. I mean, she hadn't even, you know, she hadn't been found then, you know, as far as anyone knew. She was still alive and maybe, you know, just hiding from the world. Would you do that? Not many people would do that, I don't think so. Who would? I'd like to know. What do you think? Who do you think that was going to sell that story? Who's really interested in money? Anyway, yeah, we'll never forget her. How could we? The centre of our world, the one who made our lives so special. Very nice. And then, so, you know, it's like you think, you know, and your sympathy's there. And then suddenly it just turns around to him again. You know, it saddens us that one day our girls will know, that their daddy was, and he straight away then brought back to him. It just wasn't right for that statement. And he then specifically mentions Sky News and ITV, the people he did the interviews with. He did the interviews with Sky News, that he rang up and left a voice note and said that they made contact despite them expressly saying they didn't want any contact. It just wasn't true. It was breathtaking in its wrongness, if you like. And I was watching it on Sky News. I mean, God knows what the reporter thought when that came out. Oh God, what am I going to say now? And this the poor guy Inzaman Rasheed, who's been following the case, invested in the case for 3 weeks, built up a relationship presumably, now just suddenly totally blown out of the water and called virtually a sort of a vulture, or someone who's just trying to make money, because that's what they said, wasn't it? They have taken it upon themselves to increase their... Taking it upon themselves. They didn't take it upon themselves. You did the interviews, for goodness sake. These are the reasons why I can't move past suspecting this person. These are the reasons. And they are real reasons. They're not imaginary reasons. This is what he said in the police statement, and it is totally incongruous to what actually happened. And then he said, to all those that are looking for missing people, keep hope alive. So he brought the hope up. He's never, ever since he forgot to talk about hope in the first interview, and he was reminded of it by the Sky News reporter, hope comes up all the time now. Keep hope alive. Which again, I just thought was a strange, when your loved one who was missing has just been found unfortunately deceased, saying keep hope alive. It's I don't know, just all strange. And then finally Nikki, she was the final thing. She should have been the first thing. She's the one who's gone, and she finally, Nikki. I don't know. That you tell me, please tell me, am I wrong? Does that not come over as strange? This particular statement that wasn't even read out by the man himself, to me, is the most that makes me feel like there's something wrong in this whole thing. Because it just took my breath away again. The vehemence that he turned round to criticise Sky News and ITV, but he was the one who did those interviews. Just like unbelievable. They've taken it upon themselves. They didn't take it upon themselves. So that was that. And then the other thing about the money that he said, so they've taken it upon themselves to do these things so that for financial gain. So says the person who's had a GoFundMe set up for £100,000, which eventually got taken down because it was just, there was such an outcry about it. There is now this other GoFundMe which is still going, which was started by a friend of Paul's. Paul, I've got to get that man's name out of my mouth. Now, that was made with a smaller total, a more modest total, £20,000 for the funeral, I suppose. And I think, as I've said before, okay, fair enough, family are going to need money. Now, I looked it up this morning to see how much there's been now a total of, or this morning when I looked at it, £38,221. Now, it's been more or less that for the last 2 weeks. So I think there was a little, when it was very first set up, there was a flurry of donations. because obviously Nikki had just been found, so there was probably a lot of sympathy at that time. But I noticed over the last couple of weeks it's hardly moved, and that seems to me to prove that people just don't like it. They don't like it because for a high-profile case like this, that is, talked about all over the world, not just in Britain, that's a very small amount. A very small amount. It's a big amount to me, to you, to anyone. But really, when you think of it, look at the McCanns, they made millions finally. I think they were a bit cleverer, though, about everything. And it took time, of course. But 38,000, and it's not, moving now, really. Maybe the odd £10 here and there. Maybe after I've made this video, they'll get a little bit more from those of you who are watching who are sympathetic towards them. And fair enough, don't get me wrong, I'm not criticising you. I wish I was more. I've tried so hard to be objective, but bear in mind of how many times I've had to watch I haven't had to, but I have for the purpose of the research for the videos. I've watched the videos, the interviews, listened to the press conference over and over again, and I just cannot come up with any other conclusion. And the best conclusion that I can come up with was that if he didn't actually do it himself, then he drove her to it. Sorry, that's my opinion. I am entitled to my opinion. And, I'm sure he's got his opinions about me, or he would have his opinions about me, and he's entitled to those as well. So then, leave us alone now. Don't you know when to stop? This is the language. It's very aggressive. It reminded me again of the other interview that was done where he starts off all the man baby, so, feel sorry for me, self-soothing, always quiet voice, and then gets quite aggressive, something happened, find out what it is. Now it's leave us alone now, and then finally Nikki, she's the last thought on his mind. And no, I keep saying him, and it's supposed to come from the family. I don't know what the situation is there. Maybe they are all together, supporting each other, or maybe there's a real sort of, he's on one side and the family thinks something else. The family, I really feel for Nicola's parents and the sister. I think they're genuinely heartbroken. I really do feel that. So okay, so that's what I think. What do you think? Do you think that's do you think the points I make are valid? Or do you have any other points to make? Do you think what I'm saying is a load of rubbish? Please tell me. I would love to think there was nothing there. I think it's important to remember that we're not all feeling this for no reason. The GoFundMe, I think it speaks volumes that it's not made more money. It really does. If people really genuinely believed that there was nothing strange going on, that GoFundMe would have reached much more money, I think, because there's so many people know about the case. In his interview with Dan Walker, he said, I don't try not to worry about the other 2%. It's much more than 2% of people don't believe him. It's probably 2% of people do believe him. So, and I don't take any joy from that. It's not nice to think that what might have happened to Nicola, whatever happened to Nicola, it was very distressing. Whether it was her taking her own life or whether her life was taken away from her. Nicola, that's why I have to move on from this case, because every night I'm thinking about her, every morning I'm thinking about her, and it's going through my head, and I'm feeling or trying to imagine what she was. That's how close I feel to this case. So I have to switch off from it, I'm afraid, until there's actual more things. I don't want to just keep analysing every little thing, but these things that I've analysed, the very first interview, the voice note, the interview with Dan Walker, and this police statement, to me are the important things, and it hasn't changed my mind. If anything, it's made me feel even more strongly the way I feel. Now, what I'd just like to say, so the next video that I'll be doing won't be about Nicola unless there are further developments. And what I would like to say to anyone who is hiding a secret, has done something bad, you know, we all do bad things, don't get me wrong, I've done lots of bad things in my life, I'm not a saint, I can assure you. But karma is a beautiful thing. You know, you do bad things and you think you can live with them. You can't always live with them. Sometimes your best punishment, or the worst punishment if you like, is having to live with what you've done day in, day out. This is what happened with Mitchell Quay. He'll be the next video that I'll be doing, because I've got to get him out of my head at the moment. He's in my head because of this case and because of him coming up for parole not long ago. Oh, and that leads me to another thing that I was starting off to say earlier, and I ended up going off on a tangent as usual. I'm going to use this channel to highlight people that shouldn't be let out on parole. Missing people who maybe have just never been found. A lot of missing people don't want to be found, but what I'm talking about, ones where there is a suspected foul play. I want to focus on that. I want to make it a positive thing. You know, to remind people, like cases like Mitchell or Oscar Pistorius, sometimes as time passes, people forget, because there's always more things and other things, but we should never forget. And when these people come up for parole, we should not forget. They might be an old man now, or woman, but we should never forget what they were and what they did to somebody else, because there's somebody for every crime, every murder that's committed. There's not only the one victim, the person that was murdered. It is huge how many people are affected by it. Their family, friends, the family of the perpetrator. You know, we mustn't forget them, because somebody murders someone, they've got parents, they've got family that have to live with the fact that they've done that. So these are huge things, and these people should not get away with it with a 5-year prison sentence or a 20-year prison sentence. Why should they? Why should they get to live their life again when they're victims, and the victims' families and their own families probably haven't been able to live their life again? So yeah, and the other thing is, so that's what happened with Mitchell in the end. You know, there was never any evidence really against Mitchell. So he eventually broke down, because it's hard to live through birthdays, to live through Christmas, Mother's Day or Father's Day if it's anniversaries. All these things that come up time and time again to remind you, and especially when you've got children, you've got to look at your children and lie to them day in, day out. And you know, this sort of, one day the children will know that their daddy was fat. Well, one day they're going to know instead, are they, that their mother was a menopausal alcoholic who took her own life. Is that, you know, what, I don't understand what he's trying to say. That these girls, their life has been not ruined, because they will still go on. You'll see when we do the Mitchell Quay case, they do go on. Depends how they deal with it and if they turn it into a positive. But you know, he brought it, but it's always got to come back to him, isn't it? It's not really the girls he's worried about, it's how they'll look at him. So yeah, karma's a big thing. I truly believe in karma. I've seen it happen, and I've experienced it for things that I've done, and I've had to hold my hands up and think, I deserve that. I deserve that, because I've done things that aren't that brilliant. So, and at the end of the day, depending on whether you believe it or not, and I do believe in it, the final judgment, no one can escape. You could go your whole life and get away with a crime, but when the final judgment comes, when you get called to the next place, when it's your turn, you will have to face the consequences of your actions one way or another. We all have to bear that in mind. Okay, so as I say, I'm glad that I've sort of finished talking about this person. I found it quite, psychologically depressing and upsetting. You know, anyway. So rest in peace, Nicola. I hope the justice is served in the end. Is watch this space. If there are more developments, I will of course do another video on this case, but until then I won't. Let me know your comments as always. I love reading your comments, I really do. Please don't swear in the comments. I know, you know, somebody not meaning anything, you just sort of, we all do it, you sort of, and it comes out. And don't get me wrong, I do swear. I'm not a person who doesn't swear, but I have to remove those comments because YouTube doesn't like it, basically. And also, I won't leave any comments that are attacking any of the other people that are commenting. Even if you think that what they're saying is totally ridiculous, well, fine, that's your opinion. You can say, oh, sorry, I don't agree with that. We're grown-up people. We don't argue like children. We argue like adults, like, you know, we used to once upon a time, debate things in a sensible way. We don't get angry. Well, we can get angry. We don't become insulting. That's probably what I want to say. So, thanks again for watching. Hope to see you again soon. And until that day comes, remember to always live and love wisely and carefully. And may your God go with you. Thank you.